Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. Small crowd, but that's okay. You're in for a good night. I'm standing in the wrong place. I'm going to get yelled at. And the reason I'm standing in the wrong place is we live stream this meeting so people can watch it as we go. Last month we had 1,000 people watch it live stream. I want to welcome you all. My name's Cliff Weiner. I'm president of the POA. First thing on our agenda is, and stay seated for a moment, we're going to do the pledge to the flag, and then we're going to stand for a moment of silence. And part of this moment of silence is for somebody that used to sit at one of those back tables for Seniors versus Crime. A good friend of mine who passed away, Brian Lifsky. He was also a District 2 supervisor. He gave many, many hours to this community, so keep his family in your prayers. Thank you. Please rise.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Next is the reading of our minutes from our, August 17th meeting that was held at Everglades. Thank you. From our secretary, Rep. Benson.
Right. Thanks, Cliff. Time flies fast, huh? So, hard to believe September's almost gone. We're already in the fall, huh? Well, welcome, everybody. Good to see everybody here tonight. So we're going to sort of just cover some highlights of some of the minutes. And so normally we cover the treasury report, so you'll be getting that for the previous month. Got some announcements, you'll be getting those kind of announcements. So what I just want to sort of cover is mainly our speaker time that we have each month. So last month we had Ed Kane, the fire chief, and Richard Baer, the district manager, discussed the village public safety department and some of the highlights of that meeting, which again was the timely meeting in preparation for, obviously, was the supervisors meeting, the Sumter County commissioners, to vote on what they were going to go going forward when it came to the ambulances and fire and whatnot. So Mr. Baer opened by stating 3 takeaways regarding the, I'll call it the VPSD. I'm military, so I always use acronyms all the time, which is the Village Public Safety Department. First, providing services to an age group that is about 2 times more than the surrounding communities. Second, the services provide for is more than of an urban-like environment, which has its challenges. And third, resident engagement is very important. The letters that they were receiving leading up to everything that culminated in the last supervisors meeting were extremely helpful for the district. Chief Kane then went through his presentation, and he had provided to the ad hoc group about 6 weeks prior to that, so back in July time period. And some of his highlights included, just so you know, for those that hadn't attended, that the VPSD started in October of 1999 with 1 station, Station 41, and about 13 personnel at the Lake Sumter Landing location. Had 1,040 calls covering about 3 square miles in that first year. Now they have 9 stations, 40 through 47 and 51, from north of 441 to south of SR 44, State Route 44, and about 170 personnel. So far in 2021, there had been, this is as of August, there had been 17,918 calls covering 90 square miles of their area. So what a big change from 1,000 calls to 17,900, almost 18,000 calls. The area includes also Fruitland Park, Lady Lake, Lake County, Wildwood, Marion County, Sumter County, and Leesburg. So they've got a pretty large area in that over 90 square miles. They currently have 150 firefighters, 61% are paramedics, and 39% are emergency medical technicians. They are dispatched using the closest unit response methodology in Sumter County. They are ready for medical and fire protection on every call, but they do not transport to hospitals until what's going to go forward, but more to probably talk about that. They have an insurance service office, an ISO rating of Class 2. They are one of 119 fire departments in Florida with that rating, and one of 1,789 countrywide with that rating. That's pretty impressive. For 2021, their budget revenue was $22,169,962. It's derived from amenity fees, meaning rooftops, village rooftops, fire assessment fee, contractual arrangements, and other miscellaneous revenues and grants. The cost per incident so far in 2021 for the village is $685. For Sumter County Fire and Rescue, it's $1,204. So not only do you get a great service, you get a great bang for the buck with that service. They provide also fire suppression, emergency medical services, hazardous material response, AED oversight, the defibrillator program, VPSD personnel training, fire prevention inspection, smoke detector program, car seat installation program. I'm sure we all need those. Okay, I thought maybe I'd catch everybody on that one. And an independent special fire control district is what they're also looking at potentially trying to do in the future. And then a couple of the questions that I thought would be worth knowing about was, what's the difference between a paramedic and an EMT? Paramedic and EMT. EMT goes to school for about 4 months, while the paramedics go to school for 12 months. It is 2 different levels of care that they can provide on a response. The question was, our AED group is not asked to help if there is an incident on an adjacent golf course. Why? Answer, due to existing procedures, the policy and any golf course incident is handled by first responders, but they are looking at ways to try and incorporate many AED groups into that kind of environment too. And then we adjourned the meeting at 8:37.
Thank you, Rep. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes? Somebody? Motion second? Second? Okay, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you guys for approving. I just want to say one thing. He mentioned in that report the IS rating. We're a 2, Public Safety Department, soon to be a 1. They're working on getting a 1. What's important about that is that affects your insurance rates. The lower you are, the lower your insurance rates are, because that means their response time is faster, there's less chance of your house burning to the ground. So it's really kind of impressive of what our Public Safety Department has done, and we need to express that over and over and over. And when you see these guys on the street or at public shopping, tell them thank you, because nobody knows how hard they really work. They really do a great job for us. Next is our treasurer's report from our treasurer, Donna Kempa.
Hi, everybody. Okay, for August, but the meeting being this late is really throwing me off here. I can't believe it's already, I'm still talking about August and it's the end of September. But anyway, we had $5,240.14 in revenues, and we had expenses of $14,524.76. So that gives us a deficit for the month of $92,84.62. Now that's not unusual for our revenues to be down for August. I mean, obviously people are traveling, they're not thinking about being here so much. You probably know that. Your friends and neighbors were probably gone most of the month too. So our operating funds total is $127,114.68. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. In April of next year, we'll have a shredding event again. We had one last April at Wildwood Community Center. Sal was in charge of it. It was highly successful. There'll be more information coming out next month in October, and tickets, you'll need a ticket, you'll need to be a member, and all that information will be in our bulletin probably in November, so you can start getting them. Please try not to lose them so I don't have to send them again. Save me a little time. And by the way, I'm going to start doing something new because I think it's really important. We have some people that are supervisors, commissioners, that serve our community, give lots of hours. So I just, for the heck of it, I'm going to introduce them. Sal Tomei, who happens, stand up, Sal, who happens to be on my board as a supervisor in District 8. Jerry Ferlisi, who's a supervisor in District 5. Andrew Curtis, who's a supervisor in District 6. Mark Hayes, who's a district supervisor in 4. I'm allowed to say that, aren't I, Mark? Did I miss somebody? I don't think so. And one of our commissioners for Sumter County, Orrin Miller. Stand up, Orrin. Thank all of you guys, because I definitely know how hard you guys work. I happen to also be a supervisor in District 4, so I know the work that's put in for these guys. Thank you again. The reason I have to stand back here behind this line is because we're live streaming this and videotaping it so it can be on our website. It's being live streamed right now as I speak on our Facebook page, POA of the Villages. So if you can't come to a meeting and you want to watch it, go onto our Facebook page and you can watch the meeting. Also, 2 days after our meeting, so since our meeting was postponed last Tuesday because of the Sumter County Commission meeting, and I didn't want to interfere with that important meeting, I canceled that meeting and rescheduled one for tonight. Part of the reason why our attendance is so small, we're not used to meeting on Wednesdays. We usually meet on the third Tuesdays. But at any rate, 2 days after this meeting, it will be posted on our website, poaforus.org. So you can watch it one of many ways. And I was informed today that we're going to be doing something else pretty exciting pretty soon. So I'll probably let you know that next month. One of the important things that's done in this community is a vial of life. I say this at every meeting. Sumter County Sheriff's Office puts out the vial of life. What you do is you take one of these tubes, and we have a whole bunch of them in the back. I promised Lieutenant Seymour that we would do this until every resident in the villages has one in the refrigerator. You take this sheet of paper, it's got 2 stickers. Second page has got a page that you fill out your medical information. You put one of the green stickers on your front door and one on your refrigerator. When the EMTs come, they see the sticker on the door, they go right to the refrigerator. And I'm going to tell you, because I've used it when my wife had a medical emergency, it is time saving. It's unbelievable. They don't have to ask you any questions. It's all right there. It's really, really, really important. I don't get upset in those instances very often because I'm a CPR AED instructor. I'm a coordinator for a neighborhood AED program. When it's your loved one, you fall to pieces. I never thought I would. I couldn't have answered their questions if I wanted to. So it's really, really important. Please, I promised Lieutenant Seymour I would do this until every house has one. So if you don't do this, you're going to have to hear me say it every month. They're in the back room. Tita, would you like to say something tonight about volunteers? I know I caught you off guard. You can say no. I won't get mad. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tita Dumagsa, and I'm the Director of Volunteers for the POA. My role is to try to get you interested to volunteer for the POA. We are, of course, a volunteer association. We don't have any paid members, so we depend on the help of people like you to help us do the little things that make an organization run. So one of the most important things that we really need help on is our website. So anyone here who has computer skills or technical skills, please don't hesitate to contact us or contact me. You'll find my name on the bulletin every month, and it has my number as well. And even volunteering to sit with our treasurer there when membership meetings happen and people come in to renew their membership or ask questions, we also need help with that. And many other little things that you probably don't realize would be very useful to us. So if nothing else, I would like to leave you with this thought that maybe you don't realize it, but you don't have to really have great skills to volunteer for the POA. Remember that this is an organization for you, by you, and it's for all of us. So anytime, the only thing probably that you must think of when you try and volunteer is, do you have the time? And then we can do the rest. We can train you, okay? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tita. She's one of the hardest working people I know. I'd like to say hello to all our friends at the back. We have our friends from Seniors versus Crime. We have the friends from the Villages Shrine Club, the Hospital Auxiliary. Is the thrift shop open yet? No? Okay. Okay, the new one's not open yet, but it's getting there. The building's gorgeous. Drove by it the other day. Shine is back there, and our friends from Realty Executives. Thank you guys all for coming. If anybody belongs to a group that would like a speaker on one of two subjects, either starting a neighborhood AED program, there's 234, I believe, right now. Sal and I do a presentation. We're more than happy if you contact me or Sal to come to your group and help you get it started, talk to you so you can contact the Public Safety Department. It's really a great program. And I want to talk about something that I wasn't going to do, but I'm going to do it. This is the Village's Daily Sun Sunday paper. And I got to tell you, there's an article in here, 2 pages, blasting our commissioners, or 2 of our commissioners, not all 5 of them, just 2. And unfortunately, I'm not going to go through the whole thing because you can see I highlighted a whole bunch of things that are not true. But one of the things that's really not true, it says, and I will read right from the article, Miller and Search moved the 2022 budget forward to slash $1 million from VPSD while adding $730 to run county-run fire department. That is absolutely not true. The Public Safety Department put in a budget of 16.7, I think, Orrin, $1 million because they got a grant last year for $6 million. They got what they were asked for. Actually, they got more than they asked for because they put in 2 budgets, one higher than the other. They gave them the higher amount. I'm getting really tired of the Daily Sun printing things that are not true. If it's true, be my guest and print it. But if it's not true, stop this baloney because all you're doing is causing rumors and starting things that aren't true being said. It's really something that people have to start letting them know. I'm not opposed to journalism, I'm opposed to lies. And in this page, there's 1, 2, 3, I think 5 that I found. 4 or 5. 1 page, 1 article. It's absolutely ridiculous. And that's part of the reason why some of those commissioners do not want to talk to a reporter from the Daily Sun. I also do not like to talk to them because every time I do, they take what I say and twist it to the way they want it. So rather than even getting a confrontation, it's easier not to say anything. Pardon? You can ask a question in a minute because we have an open forum and I'll answer anything you want. Also, just so you know, Public Safety Department, or County Board of Commissioners last Tuesday night approved transportation by our Public Safety Department and by Sumter Fire and Rescue. So that's going to go ahead. It's going to take a while for them to work out the bugs. It's not going to happen overnight, but it is going to happen. But the Villages is proceeding to get a special fire district. And I want to say this, I'm going to say this a lot in the next year and a half because it's going to take a long time. It will be controlled completely by 5 residents of the Villages. There will be no outside interference from the VCCD, SLCDD, the developer, or anybody else. The board will be elected within the residents that live within the boundaries of the Villages, Lake, Marion, and Sumter County. So if it goes, and there was a meeting today, I don't know, were you at the meeting today, Orrin? There was a meeting today with Senator Baxley and Representative Haig. They have agreed to take it to committee. So the process has started. Hopefully, it will happen fairly soon, but you got to get something out of committee is really, really difficult. But in this case, I have a lot of confidence because even though sometimes we don't agree, or I don't agree with the developer, I do on this instant because I'm sure he's got enough political power to push this places that nobody else can get it. So that's a good thing, and hopefully he'll do what's right for the villages. And I'm saying this, and it's being recorded, and I don't really care. I hope he sees it. But we need his help to get this done. It's really the most important thing that affects every single person that lives in the villages. It's your life that's at stake. And our public safety department is the finest that you can ask for, and they will do the best job. And part of these problems are going to go away. And one other thing I want to say, because during this whole conversation, AMR, who is the transport provider for Sumter County now, kept saying part of their problem was unloading at the village's hospital. It's probably true, okay? Those things do happen. I happen to have a niece that's a doctor at the Cleveland Clinic. They have the same problem there, but not all the time. Every hospital has that problem. But one of my goals is to work with the hospital, if at all possible. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, but I'm going to give it my damnedest to see if there can't be a way to work out where unloading will go better. Are there going to be problems from the beginning? Sure there are. But are they going to work them out? I have all the confidence in the world. Public Safety Department is going to do what they have to do. I really believe that sincerely. So we are 100% behind what they are going to try to do. I'll get off my soapbox. Cash raffle. We give away $30, it's going to cost us tonight. But that's okay. Last four numbers, 9626. Right there, Jerry.
No, just donate it back.
Thank you very much, sir. I hope you win the next two. 9610. Gentleman from Realty Execs. You'll have to sell one less house this month. 9618.
9618.
Oh, Mike's wife won. Okay. Thank you, guys. Okay, now it's the part of the meeting where you can ask your question, open forum. I'll try and answer any question you have. Some I can, some I can't. If I can't, I'll get the answer for you. So, Jerry, where are you? Or Sal? Okay. Who's got a question? Right there. Sal? Right there.
Take that one off. That one you can't keep off.
Oh, we gotta walk with it.
I read the paper every day, and I'm trying to think, do they publish letters to the editor? And if they do, have you folks ever responded to these allegations that are obviously blatantly untrue?
They will not, you have to understand the paper's owned by the developer. Okay, and they have nothing, no contact with the POA whatsoever.
But you can write a letter as a
I
citizen.
could, but if they think, if it's a letter they don't like, they just don't publish it.
But they do publish letters to the editors from,
Oh, they do.
they do. Okay.
You know, but there's other ways to fight this. This isn't just new, okay? I've been here a long time. It seems to get worse. You're gonna start me off again. When they write an article about something, and no matter how it is, they have to get the name of Miller Search and ETHEP in it, when it isn't even about them. That goes to show you how deep the wounds run, because we got their three candidates unelected and got our three elected, who hopefully are going to do what's right for the people. Okay? So that's what it amounts to. And it's just, they're not going to let up, but neither am I.
Good.
Anybody else have a question?
Yeah. Is it true that the county budget went up by 30% this year?
I really can't, is it? Yes, it is.
30% in 1 year.
It did.
And you guys aren't concerned about that?
I am concerned, but you got to understand that a lot of this budget that went up were for commitments that were made before the new board got elected, which people keep not talking about, okay? And that probably Sumter County's growing.
I understand. I'll look at the budget. It's not posted yet on our website, so I'll dig in and find out where the
Well,
years
so,
are.
so will I, it's not
But my
posted.
question, okay, and 25 million came from COVID for the federal government, and not one penny of that is going towards buying the new ambulances or getting ready for this switch. Is that correct?
No, that's correct as far as I
Why
know.
the heck wouldn't they have taken, instead of water and sewer projects, why wouldn't you go put money aside to buy the ambulances?
I don't know, but
And why
once-
aren't we concerned about that?
You know what? I shouldn't do this, but I will. Oren, you want to answer that question? I'll give you the chance to answer that.
ARPA money is very specific in what it can be spent for, sewer, broadband, stuff like that. So we're going to spend that money for sewer and broadband, take the money that we were going to spend on sewer and broadband anyway, and put that into ambulances. Part of it will be in this year's budget, part of it will be in every year's budget.
I gotta see the budget. It's not online yet, so I can't dig in.
No, that's the problem I have. It's not online yet, so you really can't go through it. But, yeah, and believe me, I hold those guys to the fire too.
That's insane. 30%
Oh,
a year
oh.
is nuts. You guys.
I do, but I have to see what they did first. So I do have confidence in them, and I'm not backing down from supporting them when we help them get elected. Okay, we have to give them a chance. They were saddled with a lot of obligations that have to be paid by the old board, and they did a lot of it in the last 6 months after they lost the election. What, wait, you need a mic, sir, and we'll be more than happy to give it to you.
Gerald Loomer, Village of Bonnybrook. We're gonna have the POA news coming out in a couple of days. Will it have the corrections with the actual true data to counteract the false data in the Daily Sun article?
Actually, to be honest with you, no, because this was in Sunday's paper, and I went to the printer on Saturday. So I couldn't do something that was already there. Our bulletin that gets delivered tomorrow, it takes more than 1 day for them to print it. It comes from Venice, Florida. They have to truck it up here to me. So, but it will be in next month's bulletin, I guarantee you, and there'll be some other things about it. But we're on a time constraint, and we held back our bulletin because we were hoping to get all the information out of the Sumter County meeting that was on Tuesday night. And we're usually done with the bulletin before then, because there is a time delay. But no, it isn't in this, but it will be in the next one.
I think the results of the last Sumter Commissioners meeting shows the dedication that these three people that we worked to get elected.
I agree with you 100%.
Mr. Miller himself, I corresponded with him by email, and after him taking the time to ride along on the ambulances with the fire department, did a fantastic job. And the three of them, along with the other two, and I'm not sure about the other two, but I really thank them for their dedication.
I'm going to tell you, I thank all three of them, and I will tell you that there's something about him riding along in this article that I didn't even get into, and they found fault with him doing what nobody else wanted to do to get the true information. So there's lots of things in that article that are not true. I get really upset when they hound on these guys for nothing. Anybody else? And as I said before, just before I close, because we're gonna, if nobody has any other questions, we'll go into our speaker. Oh,
One last.
yes, Bob.
Not a question, information to the gentleman who wanted to know about writing letters to the Sun. There's another newspaper published in the area, the Sentinel, in front of Orlando. And I get that, and there are quite a number of letters from people who live in the villages. So if you want to write to them, they may get that letter, and there are a number of people like myself in the villages who do get the Sun, and it's also sold at all the stores. So it is one area you might want to get into.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Yes.
In regard to the discounts that you have, last year I had Kylie Sons or something plumbing come, and they did not take the discount. And then I see the next time it's in there again.
Well,
so yeah.
Yeah, and Tita actually handles that. So thank you. And we've had that issue before with Kylie and Sons. Could you call them tomorrow and check? Okay. Every once in a while, unfortunately, because Somebody want to help and volunteer, I can use all the help I got. I spend 60 hours a week doing this job for free because I feel it's important enough to represent our residents so we don't get the shaft. So we don't get a chance to call all of those, and we get lots of discount partners, and sometimes they just don't, they decide not to, or they change owners, and then the new owner doesn't want to do it. We have that happen all the time. If someone would like to take that job on, I would be more than happy. Tita would love to have somebody else do that. So if you see me after the meeting, I'll set you up. Okay, any other questions? Okay, tonight we have Ann Bosler, who's going to talk about caring neighbors. I believe there are 5 groups in the villages. 6 groups now? Okay, it was 5 when I went to their board meeting. Now it's 6. It's been a while. I'm really interested in this myself because it's not going to fight. Okay, if you give your name to Tita after the meeting, she'll. I'm interested in trying to get this started in my neighborhood. We have lots of older people that live alone, and it's really kind of scary when we get older. So I don't know how I'll find the time, but we'll find the time. So Ann, the floor is yours. Thank you for coming.
Okay, good evening. Can you hear me okay? That sounded loud to me. I just want to thank the POA and Cliff Weiner for inviting me to speak to you this evening, and also for their interest in the Caring Neighbors program. Lights, oh yes, that's a good idea. I guess I have to get my presentation up again. Hold on. 1 second here.
Everybody close their eyes.
Okay, so I did want to thank the POA and Cliff Weiner for inviting me, but there's one other person that I really need to thank, and that's my husband, Ed Bosler, who encourages and supports me in everything I do for the Caring Neighbors program. Thank you, dear. Speaking of caring, I want to tell you a little story. Recently, Ed and I went to Lake Sumter Landing Town Square to see and hear Scooter the DJ. And as we approached the square, there was a woman with a walker who was having some difficulty crossing the street with all the traffic. So my husband went up to her and said, "Excuse me, ma'am, but can I help you get across the street?" She said, "Oh, that would be lovely." So my husband helped her across the street, and as they got onto the square, she looked at him and said, "You look like my 3rd husband." And he said, "Oh, how many times have you been married?" And she said, "Just twice." I have a few questions about this volunteering thing now. But anyhow, seriously, about 5 years ago, I founded the Caring Neighbors program in the village of Hadley and in other villages in the villages area. Ed and I are members of the Caring Neighbors group in our church. However, that group primarily serves the parishioners of the parish. And I couldn't stop thinking about all the villagers who need help, but they don't know where to turn to get the help. So I thought to myself, I'm going to try to set up a group in my village, a pilot Caring Neighbors group, and see if it'll work. And that's how it all got started. I think I went backwards instead of forwards. Anyhow, I believe that the Villages is the best place in the world to retire. Do you agree? I think, yes. Oh, hold on one second, I just got. Anyhow, I think the Villages is the greatest place in the world because, not just because of the wonderful lifestyle here, but all the amenities that are here. Whether it's exercise or sports or entertainment or even education, there's just so much to do. However, in a heartbeat, in the blink of an eye, all that can change. Especially when life throws us a curveball or things don't happen as we expect them to, or we're diagnosed with a devastating illness, life can change very drastically. And I know because several years ago, my husband had some eye issues. He had glaucoma, he had cataracts, he had 2 torn retinas, several surgeries, and then diagnosed with macular degeneration. He no longer drives the car or the golf cart. He's the one that had that light, the spotlight, so it would help him see. And recently, I had to go to our son's house in North Carolina, and he had a post-surgical eye doctor appointment. So guess who I called? I called Caring Neighbors, and he got a volunteer to drive him. So we are on both sides of the spectrum. We're both volunteers, and we're neighbor clients. Okay. Because we live in a unique and specific demographic, there are always going to be needs here that are particular to our population. You know, the difference is that even though we have these needs, we can help people to have the best possible life as we age, as all of us age, and many of us are going to need these kinds of services. You might be surprised to learn that a great percentage of the residents here are in need of some type of service and help just to live here in the Villages. I'm thinking right now of a neighbor who lives right on our street. This gentleman mows his own lawn, drives his car everywhere. He's self-sufficient and independent. But once a year, he has a colonoscopy, and the doctor told him he's not allowed to drive after that. So once a year, he calls Caring Neighbors, a volunteer takes him, and another volunteer picks him up afterwards. Another thing to consider, if you live alone and you need a knee replacement, you come back from your knee replacement, you will need help. You might be independent and able to do for yourself, but in that situation, you will need some help. You don't have to have a devastating illness or diagnosis to need a little help once in a while. So anyhow, there was no denying the need for a group of generous, dedicated volunteers to help our neighbors in the Villages. So who are Caring Neighbors? You're all caring neighbors. When you do something as insignificant as picking up your neighbor's newspaper if it's raining or if they're away. But you know, helping neighbors isn't anything new in the Villages. People help their neighbors every day. I hear stories every day. The Caring Neighbors program is slightly different in the sense that We are a structured program. We have a lot of protocols in place that protect both the volunteer and the client neighbor. First of all of our volunteers are background checked before they can give any service. This gives a level of comfort to a neighbor who's in need and they don't know who's coming to the house to give respite care, or they don't know the person who's driving them to their appointment. So just to know that that volunteer is background checked gives them that little sense of comfort. Secondly, we assess every client before they receive any services for us. Someone goes to their home and gets their name, address, phone number, their emergency contact name and phone number, pertinent information about them. For example, if they use a walker, or if they have balance issues, or perhaps they have an extra friendly St. Bernard in the house and needs to be restrained before the volunteer gets there. So these are the things that we determine when we do the assessment. Third, we require every client to sign a release stating there will be no legal action taken if there's any accident or incident while they are receiving services from caring neighbors, volunteers. And lastly, we have guidelines in place for all of our major services so that we all follow the same procedures and so that we know what to do in the case of an emergency. Caring Neighbors operates under the United Way of Lake and Sumter counties. I don't know if I'm on the right slide. Hold on a minute. It's not, okay, here we go. It's not, okay, now we're getting there. Okay, so, there we are. I think we're on the right side now. So we operate under the United Way of Lake and Sumter counties, and the United Way provides our name badges, our printed materials, our guidelines, our dedicated phones, and all the background checks on the volunteers. Our services are free. Nope. And include things like transportation, respite care, short-term dog walking, short-term meals, errands, and other things. Transportation and respite care are the two most requested services that we have. But often our volunteers become friends with the clients, and when you take somebody a couple of times, you get to know them and they get to know you. And sometimes our volunteers actually compete with each other to take a particular client on whatever trip they need. But I can assure you that none of our volunteers are overworked. I could tell service stories all night. I could tell you things about volunteers, that fantastic volunteers, like the one who drove a client to Tampa for a procedure. And I could tell you about the many clients who are so grateful that we've helped them. And one in particular, that she wanted to pay us, and because we don't charge for our services, she made a donation to the United Way to thank us for helping her. But there's a couple of stories I'd like to share with you specifically. And the first one was when we first started our group in the village of Hadley, there were two ladies who lived alone. They were sisters, and neither of them drove any longer. And the one sister's name is Dottie. And Dottie was asking for weekly rides to the food store, the pharmacy, and the postal station. And when the request came through, one of the volunteers said, "I'll do it every week." Now, normally we don't ask any volunteer to do something every week. But this gentleman wanted to do it. So we said, okay, fine. So he calls it his date with Dottie. And he goes, every week he takes Dottie to wherever she has to go. And then on the rare occasions when he can't, some other volunteer will fill in for him. The other story I want to share with you is about a gentleman who unexpectedly lost his wife with no warning whatsoever. His wife was a CPA. She paid all the bills in the house, and she handled all the finances. And when she passed, he was at a loss. He didn't know how to pay the bills. He had no log-on information. He didn't have passwords. And he didn't even know if they had filed their income tax return that year. Fortunately, we happened to have a volunteer who was a CPA, and she offered to assist him. And the last story I'd like to share with you about... Oh, he got a check. Well, that's good. I didn't know that. But the last story I want to share about services is kind of personal. It's a client that we had, well, we had a woman and her husband. They were in their 90s, and they needed rides wherever they needed to go. So I drove a couple of times and got to know them. And her husband passed, and so we still drove her wherever she needed to go. And one time while I was driving her to an appointment, I happened to mention that my husband and I were going to Gettysburg because we had never been there, and I was so excited. And the next time after our trip to Gettysburg that I offered to drive her, she gave me a gift. It was a case, and in this case is a bullet from the battlefield in Gettysburg. And she said her husband had it, and she wanted me to have it. It's so special to me. So, but I could tell you lots of stories of different volunteers who have done things to help their neighbors. Okay. All right, so let me tell you a few things about how the process works. Oh, I was on the right one. Okay. So, a neighbor has a need, and they call a dedicated phone number, and they say what they need. An assessment is ordered as soon as we get the first phone call. And during that assessment, as I said, we get all the information we need to provide the service to that person. We also do the assessment so we get them to sign that liability disclaimer, because we really do want to protect our volunteers. We don't want somebody losing their home because they were helping somebody. An email then goes out to all of the volunteers in that group, and the email says request for service. In the email is the client's name, address, phone number, their emergency contact name and phone number, any other pertinent things like they use a walker, and then the date, time, and type of service that they're requesting. So if you get the email and you want to provide the service, you reply to all, you respond to all in that email. And by doing that, all the volunteers know that that's been taken care of and they don't have to worry about it. Then the volunteer contacts the client and says, I volunteered to drive you, or stop over for respite care or whatever, and what time should I be there? And then the day that that service is rendered, all the volunteer has to do is print out that email. Everything they need to know is in that email. So if anything happens, they have the emergency contact phone number and all the other information. Our volunteers are never put on the spot. You do what you want to do and when you want to do it. So if you get an email for a meal and you don't cook, you delete that email. If you're scheduled to golf on the date of the service, you delete that email. If somebody responds to all before you get a chance to respond to all, you delete that email. So if you decide that you can do that service, you respond to all. And let's say you drive someone to a doctor's appointment, and they come out from the appointment and they say to you, the doctor wants to see me back here again next week. Can you take me? The response is, we have a process and we have to follow it, and all calls are tracked, so you have to call that dedicated phone line and you will get a ride, okay? Though I shouldn't say you will get a ride, because we are volunteers. And I will tell you, 95 or above, we answer every request we get. So most likely they will get a ride. Our experience has been that sometimes a person in need tends to call the same person over and over again to get the help they need. And this program was designed specifically to limit and minimize those constant requests for service. And we don't ask people to do service again and again, over and over, except volunteers like the date with Dottie. He wanted to do that. So, the first pilot meeting that I had 5 years ago was in Hadley. We had 6 volunteers at our first meeting. Today, there are over 30 volunteers in Hadley, and we have caring neighbors groups now in Summerhill, Buttonwood, the Fenney area, Sunset Point, and Polo Ridge. And perhaps your village will be next. So why am I telling you about this program tonight? Oh, wrong way again. I know. Okay, well, the goal from the very start was to have a group in every village. It still is. Tonight, I am inviting you to join me in helping the neighbors in our community who need help. It only takes one person with a dream and a vision to make a difference in this world. And I know from experience, because I never dreamed I would be standing here giving a talk like this or be starting groups in villages. I never dreamed it. But I can tell you that I have gotten more than I've ever given in great feelings, meeting great people, and just out and out helping someone. It's a wonderful feeling. Only 6 people are needed to start a group in a village. The program, as I said, is very structured. It's a package deal. You get everything you need. You get the job descriptions, you get the procedures, the guidelines, the name badge, the dedicated phone, the background checks. And in addition to that, someone will assist you to get started and will stay with your group until you're self-sufficient. Beginning in November this year, I am going to have monthly meetings to help people get started and talk about ways to recruit volunteers. I'm limiting the meetings to 6 villages, approximately 6 villages each month. And so if any of you are thinking that you could do this in your village, I would ask you to sign up. I think my husband's going to sit up at this table in the front with some sign-up sheets. All I need is your name, your village, your phone number, and your email. And your credit card Your credit card number would be nice, but it's not necessary. Please print, because sometimes I can't read the emails and I think I'm contacting you and I'm not. So please print. And I just want to close by saying, volunteering costs nothing, but it can really impact the life of another person in a really positive and powerful way. And I just want to thank you all for your tentatively listening to my presentation, and I will now open it up for questions, and I'll try to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Ann, I have a question. I have a question.
Yeah.
You said it's under the auspice of United Way of Lake and Sumter County. What about Marion County?
Okay, so the question was, right now we operate under Lake and Sumter County United Way. Those that are in Marion County have to go through the Marion County United Way. And the only thing I know about that, because I don't have any groups in Marion County yet, however, in Marion County, it's a separate United Way, and they have their own, we would have to look into that because they operate a little differently than Lake and Sumter does.
I know
But
they
yes,
do.
that's an option.
Well, yeah, I know, but for your benefit, I think maybe you should talk to United Way of
I
Lake.
have.
Okay.
I have given a presentation to the United Way in Marion County.
Okay.
So, but they have, what they asked me is each group a 501c3 nonprofit? And we're not. We operate under the United Way's nonprofit status.
Right.
So they are trying to figure out how to incorporate Marion County groups under their nonprofit umbrella.
Okay.
Questions? There's one over here.
Yes, thank you. That was awesome. And I've been involved in a respite care program, and I know it's a lot of work. 2 or 3 things I wanted to ask. First of all, we talk about Marion County, and I live in Marion County. Does that mean that I, as a Marion County resident, could not volunteer with your program? Do I have to be a resident of Lake or Sumter?
I'd have to look into that. Well, you can volunteer. See, here's the thing. Every time, I was telling Cliff this, every time they put an article in the paper with my name and phone number, my phone rings off the hook. And not all of the calls are from people who want to volunteer. They're now calls from people who need help.
Yes.
And they're all over the villages. And they'll say to me, well, I live in the village of Hacienda. Can't you send somebody here? The answer is no, I can't, because each group only serves the residents of their village. There's 1,174 homes in Hadley, and we'll take anybody from those 1,174 homes. But then we also get the paperwork. We get their disclaimer form, their liability form, and we get the assessment form, and we keep them. We keep those records. So we don't want to have records from the village of Hacienda and every other village. You have to limit it, otherwise your volunteers get burnt out and then you don't have a volunteer group anymore. So the object is to have one in every group, and if you're in Marion and you're interested, I'll talk with you and we will figure out a way to have a group in your village.
I have a couple more questions.
Sure.
Maybe putting the cart before the horse here. You say that someone will go into the home and assess the client.
Correct.
Is this a professional, like an RN or
No.
a physical therapist or
No.
something?
What we do when a new group forms, we read the job descriptions, and the assessor, we say, if you have a medical background, you might want to consider volunteering as an assessor, because you'll see things that I wouldn't see. You'll pick up on things. Like, for example, someone will call us and say, my husband has slight dementia, and you go there and interview him, and you'll say, oh, how many children do you have? Ask her, or he'll say, I don't even know what this is all about. What are you doing here? So you pick up little things, and they help us to determine, because there are cases where you may start out, and this happened in Hadley. We started out giving respite care to someone with Parkinson's. And I would go there, and the wife went away one morning every week, yeah. And I used to go there and play cards with the gentleman. But he declined, and he declined, and declined, to the point where you would go there and he was literally a vegetable sitting there, and he would drool. So in cases like that, sometimes we have to reassess and say, we'll bring it to the group first. We bring it to the volunteers, and we'll say, if you're all still okay with this, we will continue giving. If any of you will do this, we'll continue service. But if you feel that you're uncomfortable doing this, we will call the wife and say, what you need is more professional services than we can render. And then we'll give them options, because we have a resource list for options for everything. You might have to pay for some of those options, but we do have them, and we'll refer them.
Okay, thank you.
So nursing is great, and doctors too. But
Hi.
Hi, Chief.
I live in Fenny, and there was an announcement not too long ago, requesting for volunteers. I did respond, and somebody answered me, and our schedules couldn't mesh, but then I haven't heard again from anyone. That's one thing. The other thing I want to ask is, what do you do when a client really, goes downhill, dementia, and there's no family, they live alone? How do you handle that? Who do you talk to get further care for this client? Obviously, they have to be institutionalized, probably.
okay, well, so did you all hear the question? Okay, so the question was, how do you handle it when you have a client who goes downhill and maybe they don't have anyone? I was driving a woman to church. Actually, it was my church group. And she lived alone, and she was fine for years. And all of a sudden, I went to take her to the doctor's one time, and she said, oh, do I have a doctor's appointment today? I said, well, I think so. She said, well, which doctor is it? I said, I don't know. I literally had to call doctor's offices and find out if she had an appointment that day. We got her to the doctor's office, and when we came home, I called her emergency contact, who happened to be her son in another state. And I just told him what happened and that I was a little concerned. And he then came down, he put a camera in the house so he could watch his mother every day. And eventually what happened was she did decline. He came down and he put her in a facility where she would receive the care she needed. So we just monitor the clients as much as we can, but the services that we give are, number one, free, number two, practical, non-medical services. We don't bathe people, we don't give them medications, we don't bandage wounds. We do things to help them have a good life as they age, but we don't do any medical things. So sometimes if we see somebody that has issues that we can't deal with, we'll just refer them we'll just tell them, you need more professional services than we can render.
Okay, do you have brochures at all that you can pass out? And then will you be putting somewhat of a presentation in the POA bulletin for next month?
In the POE bulletin? Okay, so the question was, do I have brochures? I have tons of brochures. I do not pass them out. And the reason for that is my brochures in my village are for Hadley, and only Hadley residents can call that number. Same with Buttonwood and Summerhill and whatnot. However, I have a document, in fact, I think I sent it to you, Cliff, that tells you a synopsis of what we do, the procedure we use, and how to get how to volunteer and get a village started. So I do have information. I tend not to give the brochures out. We give them out in the community that has the group, but we don't give them out like in meetings like this.
There will be an article, because this is live stream. The editor of my bulletin is not here, but she's watching it as we speak, I'm sure. And that's the other reason why we record them and put them on our website, so she's got all the information that she said at her fingertips. So it will be some information in the November bulletin.
Each community is unique to itself. The community itself, the Caring Neighbors group in the community, really decides on what services they're going to be offering to the community. For example, we as a group decided, we had a question one time that came up about alcoholism and respite care for somebody that's an alcoholic. A lot of people would be reluctant to take care of that. Yeah. In our specific group, they decided that they have resources to take care of that situation. But that would not be in a brochure. We as a group collectively decide what type of services we're going to be offering to the community. And each one is different. Summerhill is different from Hadley, and Buttonwood is different from Summerhill and Hadley. So each one is, and their brochure is uniquely made up for their community. They sit down and decide what they're going to do and what they're going to offer, rather than saying, these are the things that we're going to be doing, period. And
yes, all the groups offer the main services of transportation, respite care, short-term meals, errands, things like that. All the groups do those. But when we get requests for things that are not in our brochure, we bring it, we meet monthly. We meet once a month, and we bring it up to the volunteers, and we say, we got a request for this. What do you all think? And like the alcoholism request for respite care, I said right off the bat, that's a big red flag. And two gentlemen, volunteers, said, I've had experience with this, and after we do the assessment, we'll see. If the assessment goes well, I'm willing to help this gentleman out. So, you know, it's up to the group to decide what they will or won't do. And I will tell you, with COVID, we literally stopped giving services for several months last year. And when we started up again, we had protocol in place where the driver, if we were driving someone, the driver sat in the driver's seat with a mask on, and the client sat in the passenger back seat with a mask on. So we do everything we can to protect our volunteers and our clients. And if there's something that the volunteers are not comfortable doing, we don't ask them to do it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ann, very much. Hopefully this is going to work. I'd like to see you get every village. I would like to talk to you afterwards because I live in the Marion County portion. Karen and I would like to talk. Thank you all for coming. We got donuts in the back. Next month we're at Everglades. So we won't be back here until November. Thank you all. Have a great evening. Stay safe.